Sally McManus, welcome to the programme.
Great to be here.
You were 12 when that summit was on. Were you watching politics back then?
I was not watching politics back then.
All right, well, fast forward to now. One of the big ideas that you're bringing to this summit is a reform of collective bargaining to increase wages for low-paid workers, especially for women. How do you see that working?
Well, we've got to accept, first of all, that part of the reason, well, the main reason why wages have collapsed is because collective bargaining's collapsed. It now only covers 1 in 7 workers. That's about 14% of the workforce. And the people that are missing out are feminised industries, so aged care, childcare, but also people in small workplaces as well. And really, when you think back to 1983, or for that matter, 1993, differences between now and then in terms of our economy are huge. Back then we had large workplaces, large enterprises. Now we've got a service-based care economy, and we shouldn't have a situation where so many people are missing out. So the way we'd see it working is this, is that where it makes sense to have multi-employer bargaining, that both the workers' representatives and the employers sit down and negotiate across their sector. That's the way it should work.
Just let me ask you this. Union numbers have obviously been declining a lot over the recent decades. What makes you think that workers actually want this?
Well, it'd be up to them. It'd be up to them. No one's going to force them to do it.
But you clearly believe there's some appetite for it, or you wouldn't be bringing it to the summit.
Oh, look, I mean, at the moment, everyone's struggling with the cost of living. What is the answer to pay rises? If we do not fix the bargaining system, if we do not give workers the ability to be able to win pay rises, we are not going to turn around this terrible situation we're in. And we shouldn't underestimate how bad it is. It's 10 years of wages going nowhere. At the moment, actually very severe real wage cuts. And we've been told that into the future that's going to continue. I have no faith it's going to restore real wage growth unless there are these changes. And as a country, we need to do this.
And just to be clear, are you arguing for a return to industry-wide collective bargaining agreements, or just restricting this to more vulnerable workers in low-paid jobs?
Listen, I think it should be wherever it makes sense. So, I know that, small business, for example, big business quite often went into enterprise bargaining because they just wanted simpler, easy, bespoke ways of, knowing what their rights are. And they've done that and they've got the benefits of that. Why shouldn't small business also have those benefits? In terms of industry-wide, that's really awards. I mean, awards are mainly the industry, and that's going to stay. Enterprise bargaining should still stay as well. But there's a big group in the middle at the moment that are effectively locked out. And, sector, but however workers see that it's going to make sense, or employers make sense, people should be allowed to do that.
And do you have support, as far as you know, from industry or business groups for this kind of reform?
Well, listen, we've been talking to a lot of employer groups, a lot of employers, not all of them, unfortunately, but most of them. And we've been putting these arguments to them. I think some will support, I think some will absolutely oppose. And that's unfortunate, but it's really not surprising. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised or naive about this. I mean, some employer lobbyists would like things to stay exactly as they are, because sometimes, their profits, their bonuses, the CEO bonuses are tied to profits.
So you're saying there are some industry groups. Would that include the BCA? Have they shown the Business Council of Australia, have they shown some support for the notion?
Look, I can't talk on behalf of any of the groups, the BCA or anyone. That's really up to them.
Let me ask you about the government then. So far, the Albanese government has made no commitments to big reforms in industrial relations. Do you have any reason to think that they are ready to embrace your ideas?
I'd say this, they were elected on a mandate to get wages moving. Now, what is the solution to get wages moving? You need to have a critical mass of people who can collectively bargain to push wages up. And we don't have that. We all agree it's collapsed. We all agree it's far too complicated. We just need to do the hard work to fix it. Obviously if they don't fix it, who's going to, suffer? It's going to be the average Australian. At the moment, we're passing on a worse living standard to the next generation. It should be totally unacceptable to all of us.
Let's talk about the number one priority for business, one of the other very important topics coming at the summit, and that is businesses' desire for a rapid influx of temporary workers to plug the skills gap, which they say is stifling the economy right now. You've said that any union agreement of this would be tied to wage rises. Is that a realistic expectation?
Well, we do not want to see a return to what we had, not that long ago, where there was an open-ended visa system where visa workers were being used and abused, they were being underpaid. It's unacceptable that we return to that. And we've got a situation where wages are going nowhere. So there needs to be a solution to both. Like, we can't say we're not going to invest in skilling up our own people, and we are going to say instead of giving people fair pay rises, we just want to return to a system where we can bring people in on visas.
The second condition, if you like, that you're putting forward is that all skilled migrants would be on a compulsory minimum wage of $91,000. That must surely be an AMBIT claim.
Well, I mean, we're talking about skilled workers. We're talking about the areas that we really need them. If we're talking about that, I think it's fair.
But where do you get that figure, $91,000 from? It's $10,000 higher than the median wage.
Median male wage, so $91,000 would make sure that those people that we really need, and there's a whole lot of people we do really need in those skilled, higher paid skill areas, that we can't just skill up people very easily, that they get filled and they get filled properly.
So you're saying that's not an AMBIT claim. Ines Willocks from the Australian Industry Group says that a $91,000 minimum wage, I'll just say it again, $91,000, would knock out as many as 70% of applicants, and it would wreck the system. So I'm just going to ask the same question. Is that $91,000 an AMBIT claim, a beginning of a debate for the ACTU?
Look, that's our claim. We're putting it. Of course, we're willing to discuss, all things like this at the summit. In the end, we have to have a system that makes sure that we are skilling up our own people, and we're not just substituting it with visa workers, and we don't allow visa workers to be exploited.
So you would be prepared to come at a lower threshold, something like the 70,000 that was put forward by the Grattan Institute. Does that sound more realistic to you?
I didn't say that.
But I think you said there was room. You were prepared to discuss it at the summit, so it's a figure that you're prepared to debate.
Look, of course we're prepared to discuss it.
Yeah.
We're prepared to discuss that. We're prepared to discuss other issues. I would say on the issue of migration, skilled migration and skills, that there's a week to go on this, and there's a lot of negotiations still happening, and that I don't want to preempt them either.
Let me ask you about this. The AWU wants a deal whereby all new migrant workers will be automatically union members unless they choose to opt out. Will you be backing that call by the AWU?
Yeah, what they're actually saying is that people, when they arrive, should be able to join a union. If they don't want to be in the union, they can leave the union, but they should
opt out, but it's a default.
But don't you reckon that that's a great idea in terms of making sure people aren't exploited? Like, it's shameful in our country that we do exploit guests in our country, visa workers, in the way that we have been in the past, and everything we can do to stop that, we should.
And that's nothing to do with the AWU wanting just to increase its numbers. This is not a grab for members by the AWU, because it sounds like that, as a default system rather than an opt-in system.
Well, it's still freedom of choice. Freedom of choice. They want to see an end to exploitation. That's what they want to see.
So you support that claim?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sally McManus, good luck in the week ahead, and we'll obviously be hearing from you more at the summit. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.